Penguin and the Penny, look at your camera. Here.
So, welcome to Penguin's Wanderlust. Today we're doing the part of self-discovery. We're doing change. And I have as my guest here, I have Dawn Yuan. Dawn, for short. She's a fellow Toastmaster, and we say she's very sexy, you know, Dawn Yuan.
You're funny.
And here's Penguin. And here's Penny.
Hi, Penny.
So, Dawn has agreed to answer a couple questions about change. She's gone through some major changes in her life, so I thought she would be a good person to give her own personal perspective and story to you, so that you can think about your life and the changes you've had, and you may think up some new ways to coping strategies. You know, how to take everything in stride and not let it overwhelm you. A boss I disliked said that life was a decision tree. Certainly we all have choices that we need to make in major areas of our lives, like education, career, relationships, there's others. Sometimes our lives change and we don't have a choice. If a loved one dies, you haven't been given any control over life's catastrophes. Death, or losing a job, or being told your lover is leaving you, or natural disasters like floods or earthquakes, they can cause you to leave your home. So we're going to go through a set of specific questions that I've tailored for Dawn, and then later we'll do the general ones. So Dawn, can you describe some of the changes you've had in your life?
Yes. I was born and grew up in a small village in China. My first change was going to a city to study. Then, after graduation, I went to a bigger city to work. And then I went to two more bigger cities. And then I came to Canada, so I have been moving further and further away from my home. To me, these are all the big changes in my life.
Ah, right. And you actually went all the way over to Nova Scotia.
Yes.
And changed.
Yes.
Give me the tea.
Okay, thank you.
At least on the west coast, you're a little bit closer.
Yeah, now I'm closer to China.
Would you say that you had a choice on each of the changes?
Yes, I think so. I have had the choices. Yeah. I choose to. Yeah, I choose for the every step that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, made the difference in my life. Yeah.
Were you Dawn back in China as well, or did you anglicize your name when you came to Canada?
Dawn is not my real name. I got this English name when I was studying English in China, in a Canadian English college, because there were so many Chinese students in one class. The Canadian teachers found it challenging to remember everybody's Chinese name, even having trouble to pronounce their names in the correct way. So the Canadian teachers gave each student an English name. So some are Apple, June, Jojo, Yo-Yo, and I was given Dawn, and I like it. So I kept this English name.
And what's your Chinese name?
My Chinese name is Yuan Ye. Yuan Ye.
Oh, that's a lot longer than the Y-E I saw in your email. So what's it again?
Yuan Ye.
Yuan
Ye.
Ye.
Yuan is my family name. Ye is my given name.
And would they have called you by both?
In China, people call me by both, Yuan Ye.
So they don't just normally call by the first name?
Because my given name only has one syllable, so for go by the Chinese culture, if the given name has only one syllable, we do not address a person in that one single syllable. So we use the family name and the one syllable given name.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So just
So my
full
brother,
name.
who's Bob Pullman, he would be Pullman Bob.
Yeah.
Oh, neat. And I would be Carolyn because I have more than one. Wow,
Yes.
very interesting. Does your name have a meaning?
Yes. My given name means wild.
Wild! Wild Dawn! Yeah!
My family name Yuan, just a family name, also share the same sounds as the Chinese currency yuan, the same sound.
Oh, okay.
But two different characters, so it's a different word than currency yuan. But if you joined my family name and my given name together, yuan ye means open air space, countryside, grassland. Just means
Oh, kind of like where you grew up in a farm?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Is any of your family still on the farm?
My parents, they still live in the countryside. Although they are already moved to a very modern new condo. They used to live in a house just on the ground, but then later that whole village became a part of industrial district in the
Oh,
city.
right, like you showed us in your when you brought the photos. Yeah.
Yes. So now they don't own any land anymore, but they all the villagers are all living in one area with all the new condos.
Are they all in the same building?
Most of them are the same villagers, yeah, and they live in the same building. Some new people join them in the building too. So now they don't really do any farming. The young people all go to work in the factories. The older people stay home, play mahjong and watch television.
Is it still rural there, or it's all built up with industry now?
In that area, there are lots of factories. Some are Western country invested factories. Some are just local factories. Where my parents live right now, the surrounding is still countryside in a mountain area, but the community itself is already very much like a city. And now there are also public buses go there, so it's like a part of the city.
And was that part of China polluted when you were there the last time?
It was.
You had talked about having to wear the mask over your face.
Yeah, it was polluted, but it's not as bad as many other big cities like Beijing, Shanghai.
Ah. Your move to Canada meant that you had to then communicate in English. What happened? What helped you to I can't even speak English. What helped you to transition to being fluent in English?
It's good that when I was in China, I already learned some English.
Did they make you learn it in school, like all the way through?
Yes, so first I started learning English in a public school. Started from middle school, yeah. So I had learned some vocabulary and grammar and all sentences, but I wasn't able to speak any because I didn't have the environment to practice listening and speaking English. But I learned some written English. Later, I went to a Canadian college in China, where all the students were only allowed to speak English. Otherwise, we will be in trouble. So it was
Mandarin that you had learned as a child?
Mandarin is our official language. We all learned in school. At home, we could still speak our own dialects.
And was that quite a bit different from Mandarin?
The pronunciation is a little bit different from Mandarin. Yeah.
Does it have a name?
It's in a broader sense, it's still Mandarin, but it's not, the pronunciation in my hometown is not a standard Mandarin.
Oh, okay.
So we were speaking the Yichang dialect all the other place I lived called Jinzhou, so that's another county, Jinzhou dialect or Yichang dialect. Yeah, it's in the province.
Were televisions common back home? Because when my parents took me to England when I was 15, there were far fewer accents and dialects from when my dad was there during World War II, and part of that was the prevalence of television shows and watching American English, and even like the London shows all the time on TV. It was really kind of making them standardized a little bit more.
Yeah, same as in China, because every family has at least one television. Also, the Chinese government requires that all the television, radio station, train station, airport, everybody, all the announcements, all need to speak standard Mandarin. So people across China already listen to standard Mandarin, and then all the children go to school, they learn standard Mandarin. So I'm not saying everybody, okay, my parents' generation, they don't speak they don't speak accurate standard Mandarin, but the younger generation, like my children's generation, or even the upper generation like myself, we all can speak standard Mandarin. I think the influence was by television, radio station, by schools,
Well, just going to see how close we are to 20 minutes.
Okay.
Because I don't want it just suddenly going off. So bring our timer here. So good. Oh, thank you. Do you speak any other languages other than Mandarin and English?
For languages, only Mandarin and English. Because the Chinese dialects I speak still belong to the Chinese language.
Right.
It's not a different language, So only in two languages.
So why did you decide to move to Canada? Like, why not another country?
Because in China I married a Canadian.
Oh, okay.
And he wanted to come home, so I came with him.
So did he also speak Mandarin? Was he like Chinese?
He doesn't speak Mandarin. He doesn't speak much Chinese.
Oh, so he wasn't actually Chinese. He was
he's a Canadian.
So what took him to from Canada to China?
He went to China to teach English. He was my teacher. Married my English teacher.
Teacher and student. Romances. Oh yeah, cool. Well, that pretty much dictates why Canada, do you think that these major life changes have made you stronger?
Yes, definitely. Every change makes me stronger.
Do you see any other major life changes in your near future?
Yes. One big change will be a big choice for me in 5 years when my older daughter turns to 18, close to 18, 19, when she goes to university.
You mean your younger daughter?
My younger daughter,
Right.
My younger daughter is almost 13 now, so I'm thinking in 5 years when she goes to university, also when my older daughter is already graduated from university, I'm thinking, should I go back to China or should I stay in Canada? So I'm thinking about it and I'll decide later.
And you had said previously that in China it's the daughters that look after the elderly mothers, or is it the mothers or the mother-in-laws? You said mother-in-laws, and yours was in Nova Scotia, which is why you went there originally.
Go by Chinese tradition, the son and the son's wife, so the son and the daughter-in-law look after the husband's parents.
Oh, okay.
A daughter is married out, so the daughter will
go to the new family.
To look after her mother-in-law, her husband's mother and the father. But the daughter who is married out can also come home to visit if they are available. financially, or if they have the time, they will come home to look after their own mother when the mom is sick, mother or father is sick. But the daily care is done by the son's wife. So the daughter-in-law and the son together look after the son's parents.
Do you have any brothers or sisters back home?
I have one older sister. She takes good care of my parents.
Ah,
yeah.
So that's kind of covered.
Yeah, my parents don't live with her, but they live in the same city, so they look after each other. My parents look after my sister's son, and then if my parents need any help in the hospital, my sister and her husband are always around to help, because I'm too far from them.
So do both of your daughters speak and write Chinese?
My older daughter, she speaks Mandarin Chinese fluently, and she can read and write quite well. My younger daughter speaks a little bit Chinese, because she came when she was only 2. In Nova Scotia, her little friends only spoke English to her, so she lost her Chinese when she first came. She said, "Mom, no Chinese."
Oh dear.
Yeah. But now she's in Victoria. She makes some Chinese friends, and she's happy to learn Chinese again.
Have your kids? Have you been back there with them?
Yes, our last visit to China was a few months ago, Christmas and the New Year time. We were in China.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where you brought the pictures from. Yeah. Was that trip?
That was another year.
Oh, that was another year.
Yeah.
Oh.
So we went back in the past 2 winters already.
Has change ever caused you to become depressed and unsure what to do?
Yes. When I first came to Canada, I wasn't sure what I could do in Canada, because it's in a foreign country. I spoke a foreign language. I was so worried I wouldn't be able to find a job in Canada. So I applied for any job that's available. I applied for McDonald's and for anything, but I couldn't get a job. So my first job in Canada was to working in a Chinese restaurant in the kitchen, a kitchen helper. And then later I...
Oh, was that the lady where you sang for her to entertain her?
Yes.
She put in from early in the morning till late at night.
Yeah, because she spends all her life in her kitchen in the restaurant. She hired me just because I could accompany her. I sing for her, even I don't do a very good job in the kitchen. we look after each other. She cooks good food for me.
Working in kitchens can be quite isolating if there's no one right there with you.
Yeah, so that's my first job. Also, my best friend in Bridgewater, Nova Scotia.
Oh, cool.
Yes.
How did you get yourself moving in a positive direction, or it just sort of happened with the first job?
First, I'm a happy person. Most of the time I'm happy and positive. So I always adjust. At the beginning, when I worried about not being able to find a job in Canada, so I went to college. I went to study English, study computer, study how to communicate, and learn about the Canadian culture. So I study, and then I also joined different community clubs in Bridgewater, Nova Scotia. I played the flute. I played the music.
I have a flute. Do you have a flute, or was yours a Chinese flute?
I play the Western flute.
Oh,
so
we should play sometime.
Sure, I also have Chinese flutes.
Oh, nice.
So I play the flute in a Bridgewater Fire Department's band. So I made friends in the band. Then I also sang in a local choir. So I always join different clubs or organizations to find people who share the same interests.
So do you think that it's healthiest for people to embrace change?
Yes.
Sounds like you have.
I think change makes good things happen. In Chinese, we have a saying that if you move a tree frequently, the tree will die. But if a person moves, it's always good also. The change will make prosperity.